Welcome in everyone to HogvilleNET YouTube Live. It feels like I just did this because I did 2 hours ago. I came on here. We gave it sort of a Memorial Day weekend update, still on DJ Wagner watch, and I told you guys that if he committed tonight or tomorrow or at some point in time where I'm still traveling, whether it was from a charter bus or wherever, that I was going to come back on here live and we were going to talk about it. But DJ Wagner, I told you guys he committed privately to Arkansas on his visit. On Saturday, I was told the commitment had been made. There had been some complications in his recruitment. Part of that was the time that it took for him to actually come to campus and visit. And there was some thought maybe there was these complications were hanging things up a little bit and causing a delay. I never could get confirmation that that was in fact, and I never disclosed what these complications were. I probably never will now that he's on board. But the point is that I could never even confirm if it was those complications that were causing the delay or not. I always felt like, and my sources always felt like, where else is he going to go? This is the best option for him. This is what it's going to be. And I was told, despite the complications, it was going to be Arkansas. Okay, so that's where it lands. John Calipari, he said he's going to have 8 to 9 players on this Arkansas roster. Now we're to 8. And your backcourt now, he has set the table. The backcourt is set. If you add an Igor Demon to the works, the Russian combo guard, who's just an outstanding player projected to be a top 10 pick, it's a spool of riches at that point. It already is a spool of riches because you've got DJ Wagner now in concert with Boogie Flan. You have experienced backcourt player that can play your lead guard spot in DJ Wagner. You can debate whether or not you look at DJ as a true point guard, but I think he's a guy, when we look at his stats, 10 points per game, 9.9 at Kentucky as a freshman last year. But what I really like are the near 3.5 assists and a better than 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. And what I remember when I watched DJ Wagner play, it was one of those situations where he's a downhill driver and slasher. He's not an explosive guy getting to the rim. He's not that kind of a player, but he picks his spots and times to hit the gas pedal to get downhill, and usually gets good separation just because he's reading plays correctly. And so he makes good decisions as a driver, and then he'll feed off of that. If the defense tries to wall him off, or if they hedge just a little bit, there's enough of an opening or a gap, he's not going to necessarily risk not finishing a play with his own shot. He'll kick it out or dump it to another cutter opposite side and set other players up. And so I think he reads situations really well. I mean, he can get better there. He was a true freshman last year. It's not perfect, but he did a really good job. And the assist to turnover ratio explains that a little bit because he made good decisions. And so the turnovers would be vastly different. And you have to consider, too, Kentucky was a high octane offense. This is one of the better offenses in the country. Scored a lot of points, multiple games over 100 points. And so anytime that happens, you're playing at a faster pace, guys get sped up, and that's where you start to see a lot of turnovers. And so in the case of DJ Wagner, did a really good job there. The 3-point shooting was under 30% last year. And when you really watch him and the way he, shoots, I think catch and shoot, if I'm not mistaken, above the break on the right side, he was pretty efficient, maybe 37%. But you understand, 3-point shots don't always come from your preferred spots. And so overall, he struggled. I think he'll get better there. But what I love about this tandem with Boogie Flan, the 5-star McDonald's All-American, he's also can play your 1 or 2. DJ Wagner can play the 1 or 2. Both of these guys can direct your offense, lead your offense, and both guys are going to have significant roles. That's the thing to understand here. This doesn't take away anything from Boogie Flan. And in fact, I think both guys can help each other because it takes pressure off each guy to be the man at that lead guard spot. DJ Wagner, let's go back to March. I mean, after the high ankle sprain, you got toward the end of the season. He did have a big game against Arkansas at Rupp Arena, 19 points, 4 or 5 from 3. Man, I like DJ Wagner. I like Arkansas's backcourt. And 2 lead guards in Wagner and Boogie Flan. I think Davis at 6'4", a guy that's really more of a 2, can also help, especially isolation, ISO ball situations, a la Antonio Reeves last year, big-time scorer, and a 2 guard, sometimes a 3 for Kentucky and Calipari. But Nelly Davis is going to be a guy you can hand the ball to in situations and let him kind of pick and choose options now at your lead guard spot. But you're also deep in your backcourt, all right? DJ Wagner, a year of experience. as a lead guard as a freshman last year. Let's not forget he was McDonald's All-American in 2023. Let's also remember as he goes into his sophomore season, you always think about guys, what kind of leaps can they make? What kind of improvements can they make year 1 to 2? Something to keep an eye on there with DJ Wagner. I think the other thing that I really like about this, we just mentioned him, Boogie Fland at the 1, sharing time at the 1, both are combo guards, maybe some Nelly Davis leading your offense a little bit. But you could, man, I needed to silence that phone. I forgot to do it before I jumped back on here. Yeah, so we wrapped up, by the way. I'm going to get back to the backcourt talk here after we go through this a little bit, because right after I did the segment, I went down to the lobby, Uber pickup, then I got a text saying, hey, the DJ Wagner thing's going to drop here, and just hold on. And so I was already headed back to Hy-Vee Arena and did a U-turn. So I decided to make a U-turn. I thought, you know what, we'll pick back up tomorrow. If this is actually going to happen, I need to get back here because I told you guys I was going to go live. So I got back to the hotel room, and I was unable to tweet my article out at HogvilleNET, my commitment article that I had ready. It took me a little bit. I wasn't having the best reception, or the best. I wasn't having bars where we were on my phone, and so I don't have a hotspot or whatever. So I had to wait. So it took me a little bit to get the article out. We got it out. I got back to the room, basically in my pajamas now, but I wanted to go through some of this stuff. When we look at Arkansas's backcourt, DJ Wagner, Boogie Fland, Nelly Davis, and then you look at those freshman additions on the wing, 2, 3, Carter Knox, Billy Richmond. Now you've got real depth. You've got 5 guards, wings, and then you have a 6th player to do Thero. It's very interesting. He's going to spend a lot of time at the 4, the way Arkansas's front line is positioned right now. Jonas Adu and Big Z, basically 5s, interchangeable 5s, not the exact same type of player. We're going to play mostly the 5. We'll see if they're ever on the court together, for how much, if they are. And so Adu Thero right now, the way it stands, is he's your 4, but he's a 3-4 combo, really. And especially at the college level at 6'8", 220 plus, maybe 230. But he's also a guy that can help your depth on the wing. And so now, if you want to look at it from that perspective, you've got 6 players, 3 that check boxes, certainly as guards. Another one probably in Carter Knox that can be a 2-3. And I see Billy Richmond and Adu Thero in a 3-4 role, Richmond in a 3 role. So you've got as many as 6 backcourt pieces, especially defensively. That's where I think Thero can guard multiple backcourt spots. And all these guys, most of these players are going to be switchable. I think DJ Wagner, speaking of defense, will do a solid job for Arkansas defensively. He'll obviously he's already got a year in Calipari's system, understands the language, the expectations. Defensively, he knows what is expected there. Whereas a player like Boogie Fland's going to be learning the nuance of the college game and what Calipari expects. So that's going to be a little bit different from him coming from high school. So that's why you also like this addition of DJ Wagner. And then the other things I think about when I look at the Kentucky aspect of it, Adu Thero, who we just talked about, Big Z, now DJ Wagner. Now you've got 3 players. All 3 have played and had meaningful roles, different layers of that, the previous season under John Calipari. In terms of Thero, he's played 2 years under Calipari. So you've got 3 veterans. And when we start talking portal, they're all out of the portal technically, but if you think about it realistically, portal players are going to a new coaching staff, to a new location. All of it's new. This is just different. Calipari switched jobs. So it's a new location, but you're still in the SEC. You're still playing under the same system and the same coach. And some of these guys now are playing together again because they were together last year. So I think that's an interesting dynamic. So when you look at portal, true portal, and what that normally feels like, looks like, and means, you're really talking a Jonas Adu and Nelly Davis to this point. And those are 2 guys that not only have a ton of experience, they're new to Calipari, but Final Four to Elite 8 experience. Both of them all-league performers from where they came from before. Both of them are going to be preseason All-SEC guys for sure, and they'll be in running for several preseason national accolades as well. And so we start thinking portal, really, you've got 5 now out of the portal, but really only 2, the way I look at it in terms of continuity, because you're remaining in the same program. You're only in the portal as a technicality if you want to follow Calipari to Arkansas, but you're playing for the same guy. So it's semantics, but I like the balance. The reason I bring it up is you've got three guys with program continuity, and all of them are talented. Adu Thero projected to a late first round pick by ESPN in 2025. Big Z's just scratching the surface. There are mock drafts that have him going in as a first or second rounder in 2025. DJ Wagner, the sky's the limit for him. I don't know where projections will land for him eventually in terms of the program, but he's a solid college player already. Then you've got two big names out of the portal that I consider true traditional type portal players who are going to be all league everything in preseason picks and probably going to back it up to some degree. You've got those 5-star freshmen all coming in, two of them McDonald's All-Americans of the three there. And so you're getting it from the high school ranks like Calipari's used to doing with 5-star guys. So you're checking all these different boxes, and we may see some European flavor. We go back to Igor Dimin. I talked about him an hour and a half ago, or however long it was. I can't believe I'm doing back-to-back YouTube Lives, HogvilleNET YouTube Live. By the way, go hit subscribe, like, share, whatever, thumbs up, 2 thumbs up, whatever you can do for us to help us out there. We appreciate it. I'm in my pajama t-shirt right here, enjoying life in Kansas City, seeing a lot of basketball. We talked and covered all of that earlier. Most of it, I'm not going to go back into all of that, but Igor Dimin would be a high school player for 2024. Will Riley, who's 2025, a 5-star, I've seen play this weekend, looking to take an Arkansas visit in late June. I talked about that in the previous segment. He may be reclassing to 2024. That's a big deal because both of those guys, 6'8", Igor Dimin, 6'8", Will Riley, are perimeter players despite their height, but they do bring height and length to your wing. But both guys can knock the bottom out from three. Both of them are excellent three-point shooters. So you like that. And they do it in volume. So where does Arkansas go from here? I've talked about Coleman Hawkins. Is there a chance that he'd make the determination? He's visiting NBA teams, doing workouts. He had a kind of I wouldn't say it was a stellar NBA draft combine, but he had his moments, and he finished up strong in the 5-on-5 play where I think made 6 or 7 shots in his last scrimmage, 17 points, did some other things. He's a guy that, not a huge rebounder at 6'10", 6 rebounds, a little over 6 rebounds per game last year, but a good ball handler at 6'10", has some guard skill, a good passer, averaged nearly 3 assists per game last year. And he's a veteran guy, 4 years at Illinois, big reason why the Illini were ranked last year, one of the better teams in the Big Ten, obviously at the top of that league, and a high seed in the NCAA tournament. And so Coleman Hawkins, like I said earlier, and I've said it in multiple of the last couple of YouTube Lives I've done, he is likely to stay in the NBA draft based on what I'm getting. But that's his preference. But let's say that he comes through these workouts and these meetings with teams, and there's still this impression with all the feedback that maybe at best he gets drafted mid to late second round without a true guarantee. When players are looking for guarantees, they're really looking for 2 things typically, in the draft. They're looking for a guarantee that they're going to be drafted from a team, but also that they're going to get guaranteed money for at least 2 years. They're looking for a minimum 2-year guarantee. The difference with the Coleman Hawkins and having those expectations are he's already played 4 years of college, and so he may not have as much leverage with teams as a younger player would, simply because another year doesn't necessarily improve his stock. And there's other things that would factor into that. This is a weak draft. That's another thing to remember. It's considered a very weak draft. So maybe that's enough to keep him in. But the other thing is, how good could the NIL money be for, say, at Arkansas, where measuring that against a 2-way deal, if you don't get drafted, or even if you get drafted, some players get drafted with a 2-way guarantee and they'll draft them late and say, look, all we're doing here, we're not looking for a roster spot. We're looking for someone that'll come in on a 2-way. That could be there. The problem with the 2-way is you're potentially leaving, you're maybe accepting half of what you could get on an NIL deal, a player Coleman Hawkins, the way he projects at the college level if he comes back for another year. So that would be a big deal. And I think Arkansas does need frontline help on this roster. I mentioned it, how thin the frontline is. The backcourt is set. And you add an Igor Dimin, or you somehow get a Will Riley. Now you've just added another wing and perimeter shooting, and you've got a log jam on your wing. And, I would say your 2 guard, you're going to have, it's probably, when you look at the entirety of the backcourt with Nelly Davis, he's going to play a ton of minutes. We'll see some Carter Knox in certain lineups where he's at the 2. And then most of those, the two combo guards are even interchangeable as twos when you look at Boogie Flann and in some ways DJ Wagner. So Arkansas's got a lot of depth and versatility in the backcourt with DJ Wagner on board. What Arkansas doesn't have is front line depth. And so Igor Demon, Will Riley, you could call those front court pieces and say that, well, they're 3-4s in small ball lineups, and they could play alongside three of their perimeter players and one big. Okay, I get that. I think Arkansas really needs you want to go after guys like that. Demon's a projected lottery pick in a year, probably top 10 guy. Will Riley, a top 25 star in 2025, certainly would be coveted and bring some different elements because of the perimeter shooting and his height. Both guys are 6'8", but I really think Arkansas needs another forward. I think if you want to get to 9 scholarship players like Calipari's talked about, 8 or 9, he just hit 8, and your backcourt's pretty much loaded. Your front court still has question marks, especially at the 4. And I'm looking at more traditional guys. I mean, Coleman Hawkins, again, is not a banger, but he'll rebound well enough, and he brings other elements that make him a complement to your other bigs and your guards, because he can stretch the floor as a shooter. He can actually pass and handle a little bit. And when you've got 2 bigs in Jonas Adu or Big Z, he's going to complement those guys. And if they're in foul trouble, if you have injury problems, he can also slide and play the 5. So you've got versatility there on a thin front. In my opinion, depth-wise, it's a thin front line. All right? You had a Coleman Hawkins. You've knocked it out of the park, and you have the number 1 recruiting class when you combine everything for this next season. And Arkansas probably goes from what I would think is, I think Arkansas is a safe bet now with a SEC, especially with DJ Wagner. You get a Coleman Hawkins or another, even if it's not a player as good as him, but another top-notch guy, whether it's one of the European guys or the Will Riley or something of that nature, you add another piece there. Even if you're at 9 only, Arkansas is within a 16-team SEC, in my opinion, a preseason top 3 or top 4 in the league. Maybe with DJ Wagner, that's good enough to do it now. That might be just good enough to say Arkansas should be in the conversation, not only for a chance to maybe win the league. Alabama looks pretty loaded. Auburn got another commitment today from a perimeter player out of the portal, a transfer, I think a 6'6" player. But, teams at the top of the SEC, Tennessee's lost a lot, but added, got some, guys coming in. But Arkansas could be in that top 3 or 4 conversation. And with one more piece, let's say it's a Coleman Hawkins or an Igor Demon, you may now start talking about top 2 preseason projections. That's how I would view it. So it's very interesting to me where Arkansas goes next. DJ Wagner, to me, you needed an experienced backcourt guard that can run your team and be a lead guard. And I think DJ Wagner has proven to be unselfish at Kentucky, playing in a loaded backcourt where some of his freshman classmates are going to be taken in the lottery in the draft. It did not work out for him that way, but he's sticking with Calipari. My source told me that this is where it was headed. Despite the delays, the answer never changed, although it was a little curious. But Arkansas now with 8 commitments on board. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. We're double dipping tonight. I was just on. I told you I'd come back and do a live if DJ Wagner committed. We got to do it. And so pick your poison. Watch both. The other one was 30 minutes long. We're 18 minutes in here. We may go another 30 and get me to an hour anyway when you combine the two. But I think it's exciting that Arkansas has made this addition simply because you've checked an important part. I thought the 3 things Arkansas still needed, even though to me this Wagner commitment, and if you go to read my article in the first paragraph, I said he committed to Calipari on Saturday, May 11th, and it went public on Sunday, May 26th. So that's how I have it. There may be some other reports that he committed today. It's just when it was announced. All right. There were procedural stuff. I've reported this in the last 1 or 2 of my YouTube lives that there were procedural stuff behind the scenes that this was done. The private commitment was made. And then you're just left to wonder after 2 weeks go by, is there waffling? Is there, buyer's remorse? What's going on? But no one could get really to even say that much, even though there were complications leading even before he came to campus. It was just too much to even draw that line and say, well, that's what's going on here. It just seemed like it's still Arkansas when the dust settles. It's a player that's not had a lot of fanfare in his previous recruitments anyway, not in terms of how coveted he was, but how he plays the social media game or doesn't play it. That's not part of what's important to him, maybe. Maybe that had something to do with it a little bit too. That's always been a thought of mine, even though I haven't talked about that as much. But having said all that, now he's a Razorback. And so here we are. It was move-in day. This weekend is move-in for players getting on the campus. Tuesday starts your summer session 1 physicals, early work with the limited practices, and you've got strength and conditioning time you can put in as well. So there's a lot of stuff going on where the timing of this makes sense. I even said earlier, I said we might see it finally come off tonight. Maybe it's tomorrow on Memorial Day. But I have been saying that every time I come on anyway. Maybe it's today, maybe it's tomorrow. But you just felt like with everything ramping up, and it's still a young player, that he's probably going to be sooner rather than later getting to campus if in fact he's going to stick with that commitment. 2 weeks ago it was a private commitment. Now it's public and official. Great source information. I always thought it was. I never doubted that. And I didn't talk about this in the earlier segment, but I'll mention it now. I did double back to my source today prior to going on the first time to say any updates. He goes, it was basically just a very short, nothing new. Still the same expectation that it'll be Arkansas. Just wait. So I got another just wait. So we didn't have to wait much longer tonight. But there it is. Arkansas, the backcourt to me is now solidified. If you, like I said, if you add some of these 3-4s in Igor Demon or Will Riley, but they're still perimeter players. I mean, I still think I'm not saying skip on either one of those guys. What I am saying is I still think Arkansas needs a viable 4. When I say viable, not just a body with a pulse for depth, someone that can have an impact and play a big role and complement Arkansas's other frontline pieces. And again, we'll see what happens. Coleman Hawkins seems to me, based on everything I've heard to this point, probably staying in. JT Toppin, if he comes back, freshman from New Mexico, like I mentioned earlier, and have said previously, got to probably make another college decision if he leaves the draft. You've got Arthur Kaluma. We'll see what he decides to do. Could he be in the mix? For Kansas State, in the portal, and he's in the NBA draft pool, was in the NBA draft combine. Look at Wooga Poplar now to Miami, was talking about taking a visit. He's been in the draft pool and did the combine. If he came back to college, the idea was Arkansas might be one of those places he visits. Is that something that could still be in play? Because at 6'5", the transfer from Miami, veteran guard, he brings perimeter punch. He's another highly efficient three-point shooter in volume. So it seems to me, though, now with DJ Wagner here, if it's not a 4-spot move, maybe it's a wing that can really shoot, because that was one of the 3 things I've been identifying. Lead guard with experience, a forward, a 4-spot guy with versatility, if you can get it, to add depth to that front line. And again, not just token depth, guys that can really plug in and be a part of it, or a wing shooter. And so there's all of that still on the board. The options there are still good options. I'm talking level 1, level 1A, level 1B, not just plans 2 and 3 per position that you need, but some really high level guys still out there and possible. So as Arkansas now moves forward, at least 8 players will begin. We assume DJ Wagner's going to be ready to start summer session 1. I don't have any information on that, if that's also been reported elsewhere. I haven't seen it yet. I need to find out if in fact, and I will effort that, how soon is he on campus and is he ready to go? And that goes for a lot of guys, though. We know that Jonas Adu formally withdrew from the draft process. Have not heard whether or not Nelly Davis has formally done that yet. Guys have been on campus before, though, who hadn't formally done that yet. Of course, this time it'll be a little bit simpler to follow because summer session move-ins through the weekend. Summer session 1 starts on Tuesday, the 28th, and then on the 29th is the deadline to withdraw from the draft if you intend to play college next year. So we'll find out those things pretty quickly with the Nelly Davis. But Arkansas is loaded. This is an loaded team that just got better. I think the backcourt now, you wouldn't have to add any other pieces. They may still, like I mentioned on the wings, I'm being repetitive at this point. I really think another forward, a 4-spot guy needs to be in there somewhere. And who knows, maybe maybe Calipari goes to 10. Maybe he jumps to 10, and because he's got some really good options here that it's too hard to say no to. But we'll see. And then if he does keep it at 8 or 9, does he backfill more just to have some bodies for practice, and in case you have that attrition that always rears its head? Maybe not A-list kind of guys or guys that are going to necessarily factor into a rotation, but insurance. And so we'll see how it moves forward. Remember, the end all be all is not just move in. That's when you want to have everybody start of summer, but it could play out several weeks or months, even until you get to the fall semester. So we'll see how it plays. 25 minutes in, I'm going to sign off tonight. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Arkansas has picked up its 8th commitment under John Calipari, 3rd transfer from Kentucky, 5th transfer overall. It's DJ Wagner, the 6'3" combo guard. Arkansas now has a backcourt, a lead guard with experience. And in tandem with Boogie Fland, Arkansas, and you add in guys like Nelly Davis at the 2, can maybe play some 1. You look at Billy Richmond, you look at Carter Knox, and even Adu Thero as a 3-4 helping on your wing, and the way he is defensively, his versatility defensively. I think Arkansas has one of the best backcourts 1 through 3 in the country. It was already one of the best. It got even better. All right, so now we're on next commitment watch, I guess, and we'll continue to monitor everything. I'm going to add a couple of more nuggets here that I meant to do earlier and forgot to. And now I want to drop them in before I do say goodbye. It's coaching stuff. Brad Calipari, John Calipari's son, we know, was just recently added as one of the assistant coaches. It was the 4th staffer that has been formally announced by the university. It started with Kenny Payne, the 1st associate head coach, then Chin Coleman, the 2nd associate head coach, Chuck Martin, assistant coach, now Brad Calipari, assistant coach, and Slash, another player development role. And so you can have 5 assistants. There's one more opening there. I checked on Ronnie Brewer Jr.'s situation. His name still appears on the staff directory, I think, as an assistant coach and recruiting coordinator. That was his title, his shared duties last year. I'm told that nothing has been decided on that yet. And there's no information, yay or nay, stay or go for him. So that's still a work in progress. We'll see if it ends up landing for him or not. But it's not a matter of it's already decided, hasn't been announced. It's a situation where I'm told it's not been determined yet. So that's something to keep an eye on. Bruiser Flint, we've been talking about. Nothing formally has been announced. He's been on the recruiting trail. We'll see what kind of title he has. Typically, of your 5 assistants, only 3 can be road recruiters, but there are exceptions to bring other staff members based on what different waivers you can get from the NCAA for different reasons and various things. Or is Bruiser Flint somehow going to be the 5th assistant? It hasn't been announced, and he's one of the 3 that travels. That I don't know, but I know he was on the road in Texas with Calipari when I was there. So there's that. All right, getting closer to 30 minutes. I am going to wrap it up. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. DJ Wagner to Arkansas. That's the 8th commit. Technically 5 more openings. We'll be back on as soon as it's needed. If not, if there are no more if there's no magical Memorial Day commitment to get the Monday streak going again, which would be tomorrow, we may not be back on tomorrow, but we'll be back on as soon as we think it's necessary. But until then, please go hit subscribe, like, and share. But thanks for joining us. We love having you on. We love doing the content. Until next time, I'll see you then.